Hello and welcome back to the Rise and Shine podcast. I'm your host, Haley Jacob, and today I have a special guest, Shelby Gardner, and we're going to be talking about finding Jesus in our stories, finding Jesus kind of in our everyday lives, and we're just going to be talking about Jesus today. So grab your coffee, find your comfiest chair, and let's rise and shine. So, hi, Shelby. How are you?
Hello, I'm great.
Good. I'm so excited to have this conversation. We've already, before we hit record, had some great conversations already, so I'm just really excited about how this is going to go. So, before we get started, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about your ministry. You've got your social media. You've got a new book out that we'll talk about. And tell me just a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So I feel like I had someone ask me this the other day when I was at a store randomly, and I started giving him all these weird things, and he just kind of looked at me like, okay, bye. So I feel like when I say this, it's all over the place, but I am a wife. I'm a mom. I have 2 daughters. My husband, he owns a real estate brokerage in Sapulpa. Okay. So I help a lot with that, social media, marketing, admin stuff. And about almost exactly a year ago, I left my job in ministry, just feeling God pull me to something new, having no idea what that was. I knew a part of it was writing. And so I'm kind of just in this wilderness journey, you could say, the last year, navigating what that looks like. I thought it was going to be sunshine and rainbows, and it hasn't been, of course. But it's just been a really cool year of learning so much about myself. You know, we kind of talked about before the podcast in ministry. My faith was so easy. You know, like I was a pastor. I led people, led volunteers, spoke at our church occasionally. That my faith just had to be a part of my work. And then so now not having my work, I'm realizing, okay, what is faith with Jesus when there's nothing forcing me to do it or asking me to do it or anyone I have to lead in their faith too. And so it's just been an interesting year navigating what all of that looks like.
Yeah. Awesome. That's so cool. It's always definitely a leap of faith. Leaving what's comfortable, even if it's like an uncomfortable job. Like ministry is not always a comfortable job,
right?
But you get used to it. That's what you do. That's where you feel called, and then the Lord's like, "Nope, I've got something else." And especially when you're like, He hasn't revealed what that next thing is,
right? Yeah,
and that can be a tough place. So, how did you kind of navigate that decision of taking that leap of faith, even if God didn't fully reveal what was next?
Right. And I would say, I feel like He still hasn't. You know, I think I felt God, you know, kind of starting to whisper, leaving ministry probably a year or longer before I actually did. And in my mind, I'm in ministry. You don't leave ministry. This is such a high calling. This is amazing. You know, I can't do anything more God honoring. And so I kind of fought the whispers for a really long time. And anytime I was like, okay, I'm going to try, I would, tell my pastors, I would think I'd have to go to them and give them a laundry list of all my frustrations with my job. And this is why I need to leave. Yeah. And then they would help me work through those. And I'd be like, oh, I'm crazy. Yeah. Everything's fixed. And then it got to a point where it felt like His grace to do the job was 100% gone. Mm. Like doing any work for our church just felt impossible. And I finally had that conversation, and I remember the day that I did. It wasn't even planned. It was like God made this meeting happen with my pastors that wasn't on the calendar, wasn't on the schedule, and it was like, this is the time, Shelby. And when I did it, all of us just sobbed, because even my lead pastor, Travis, he was like, something's different about this conversation than everyone we've had before. And we just all knew. And so it was also a really hard year to do that to them, to our church, because they were about to go on their first ever sabbatical. And it was like, I know you guys are trying to build up a whole lot of stuff before you leave, but you got to pull me out. And I was, almost second in command. I was there for everything, helped with anything I could. And So that, there's a lot of guilt around that. And I was like, God, are you sure this is the time? It feels so mean to them to do it right now. But it was just, he literally, I'm not saying he removed his grace from me, but it just felt like, I know it feels hard, and feels like the hardest time to make the decision, but now is the right time. Yeah. And I did, and, they left for sabbatical for 3 months, and I left, and they're like my people. They're our pastors, some of my best friends, mentors, and I didn't have them to talk to for the next 3 months. And it was a time where God's like, I'm going to take away everything you use in place of my voice, and you're just going to have to find me. Yeah. And that's really hard in especially our world today, with all the loudness and all the different voices and all the, places you can go to try and hear God's voice away from him. Yes. So it was a huge leap of faith. And it still is just, I have some days almost every single week. Like last week was just a weird week for me where I'm still asking, okay, but now what, God? Like I've been waiting for a year. Now what are we going to do? What is this going to look like? And he's revealing the most minuscule amount at a time. And it keeps me literally at his feet every week.
Yes.
So
No, but that's so good, because I feel like that's how the Lord has worked with me my whole life too, is like some people when they're like 15 get this big reveal, big calling on their life from God, and like they're like, I know exactly what I want to do. I'm like, okay,
that'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be so nice. I get like my whole life just these little open doors, like not even full doors, like little windows, little glimpses into what his plan is. And like, of course I have an idea of what that might look like and generally what that is, but like the steps that I take there, he's always revealed it one at a time. Right. And I love that you touch on like he didn't remove his grace from you necessarily, but he didn't give you the grace to keep working there to handle the stress, because he knew it was time for you to move out. Right. He had prepared the hearts of your pastors. Mm-hmm. He had prepared your heart. He prepared the congregation's heart. Mm-hmm. He's like, now's the time. You have to do it. And sometimes when we're, there's times when we're really trusting in God, when our heart is to do God's will, but maybe our flesh doesn't. Right. Because we do have free will, but there are times where like our spirit man wants to follow him and our flesh doesn't, where he's like, I'm gonna scoot you out. Yeah, right. I'm gonna give you a little nudge, right? Like I need you for something and it's not this anymore. Yes. Yeah. And so we have to just trust him in that. Speaking about the idea of most of the time, a lot of the times he only opens doors kind of one at a time. It kind of brings me to the idea of your book called Lily Pads. Yes. And even just kind of your social media platform. She has this thing on Instagram. Go find her on Instagram. I'll link it down below, where you like do voiceovers. Yes. What you write. Can you explain that a little bit better? I would love to, because it is confusing and it was unintentional. So I have a blog that I write every week, and it's called Lily Letters. Yes. And then I have my book. It's so funny that they both have Lily in it, because it was not intentional at all. But then the book is called Lily Pads. Yes. Okay. So they're not related. Okay. I mean, I guess they kind of are. But Lily Pads is, I'm calling it like a heart study. Yes. And then Lily Letters is just, it's kind of almost my online journal. Like, this is what I'm learning from God this week. Maybe it could speak to you too, is more what that is. Yes. So, but it kind of leads us into that idea of Lily Pads, your book called Lily Pads. And I was reading through it, and in the introduction, you explain like what a lily pad is. Can you go into why you called it Lily Pads? I would love to. So there was, I remember one day, I remember the day, I was sitting on my back porch, and I knew I wanted to write, and I knew I wanted to write something that involved my story, but I didn't really know much more than that. And I was sitting there talking to God and trying to figure out what I would call it one day. And I think that previous week, my husband has, he struggled with depression for pretty much our whole marriage. And
I think we'll have a few really good weeks. And then I think when I came up with this, that day I was sitting on the back porch, the week had been like super bad or, something like that. It wasn't a successful week. And I remember sitting there like, oh gosh, we took like 5 steps forward and here we are taking 7 steps back. And I was sitting there and I was like, I just hate that language that we use, and like that we all use. I've used it my whole life. We just view life as a staircase and you're taking steps forward. Oh, and then you're falling down. And I just remember asking God, like, what else could I call that? Because I don't like that. Yeah. And lily pads literally just came to mind. And I was like, okay, doesn't make sense, but we'll go with it. And it was just cool, when I started like researching lily pads, one, I just think they're beautiful. Yes. But when you're researching just all that they do in a pond, all that they provide for pond and for fish and like safety and clarity. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so much like God. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm just going to shift my language to be like, this season, it's not a bad season or a wrong season. It's just another lily pad on this pond of my life. Yes. And I hop from one to another. None of them are forward. None of them are backward. Like they're all just a part of what God wants to do in my whole life. Yeah. And it just feels like kinder language, to refer to it like that. And so that's where it came from. And so the book is lily pads of my own life. Like each story is a short, lily pad of my life, and then what God taught through that, and then inviting people into their story through that.
I love that. Because when I think lily pad too, like the image that comes to me, like my mind is you kind of hop to one at a time, trusting, not like always knowing where the next lily pad from that one is going to be. Right. And so I love that imagery, and I think that's so beautiful.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the book Lily Pads a little bit. Okay. What inspired you to write it? We kind of talked about why you titled it that, but what inspired you to write it, and really, who is it for?
Yeah. So I think I have been in counseling for a couple years now, on and off, probably 3 years, and it's the counseling I do is called story work, and it's really diving into, the way I would put it is diving into your personal story and finding Jesus in all the places I never knew he was there. Yeah. And, finding like younger Shelby and having compassion for her and caring for her. And I think lily pads, I wanted it to be something where it can take someone into that moment, in the first section I talk about, I think, loneliness. Mm-hmm. So taking someone into a moment when they were lonely and helping them wrestle with where they were at that moment, how that has led to who they are today, and seeing Jesus, sitting with them. I have one like moment I talk about a lot with my counselor, just an awful moment with somebody, and we talk about Jesus like sitting next to me in that bed, And when I can picture that, I mean, when you take like your loneliest moment and you go back to that younger you, and then you see Jesus sitting like right next to you, it's a crazy feeling to experience. And I wanted lily pads to be something that people could dive into their own story, because while I don't think, our lives are not solely about us. I think it's easy to get in the me mindset. I do think that through our stories and our testimony is exactly where the world gets to experience Jesus through us. Yeah. And so I wanted this book to be something that almost brought out someone's testimony. Like, let's dive in, let's wrestle with it, because it's really uncomfortable topics. But it's putting Jesus back in them. And then like, now how does that form your heart? How does that form your story into something that like the world needs to hear, know? So that was kind of what I wanted it to be for, or my purpose for it. And I've struggled with the like, who is it for a lot, because sometimes like I've thought about sending a box to like a women's prison, because I don't, when I was in ministry, and it wasn't anything my pastors put on me, it was like this standard I put on myself that you basically have to be perfect. Yeah. And there were people in our church, who've come and gone, who probably have helped me feel like you've got to be perfect, I mean, in any church world. And I remember when I left, I didn't want Lily Pads to be like a ministry book. I didn't want it to be a church approved, devotional or something like that, which, I mean, that's who you're speaking to, is like Christians in it talking about Jesus. But at the same time, I wanted somebody who like doesn't know Jesus as well, to be able to pick it up. And I think through hey, this is about your story. Like, I'm not trying to preach from some high mountain teaching you how you should live life. Like, no, we're just diving into you and your heart. I had a friend tell me, like, you should try and get this in hands of, addiction recovery groups or something like that. My goal is that it could be for anybody who wants to learn more about their own heart and their own story. But I also would love to figure out what that looks like to get it in the circles that I'm not a part of.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. No, I think that's great because as I was reading through it, I was also thinking like, oh, so and so could benefit from this, and like so and so could benefit from that. And I didn't perceive it necessarily. It's a beautiful book.
Thank you.
So pretty. I don't know if they can see it on camera.
I got it tattooed also.
Yeah. Oh,
so I was like,
love that.
I have to get that tattooed. So this is the tattoo artist. She did this for my tattoo, and then I put it on the book.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
But it's a beautiful book. But it, like, a lot of people probably, and your heart. I was reading in the book. You have a heart for like human trafficking.
Yes.
Helping women in that. So like, I feel like your heart, is geared more towards women, but I feel like that's not just for women. I feel like anybody can just dive in to these stories and find Jesus in their own story.
Yeah, right.
But that's kind of what I was getting to when I was reading that. I was like, this really can be for like anybody.
Thank you for saying that. I actually hadn't thought about it like for the male side, but
we slapped some flowers on things.
Right.
And we were like, oh, it's women, but like guys can like flowers too.
For sure.
Like,
yes.
But I feel like something like that can be just teaching someone how to dive into their own story, how to find you, like what we were talking about earlier. Actually, this has been on my mind all week. And my last episode kind of touched on it, actually. The fact that sometimes we rely on other people for our faith.
Yeah.
Sometimes we rely on, I watch sermons all day long, which is fine. It's great. I love to do that. But are you diving into it yourself?
Right.
Are you praying one-on-one? Are you finding Jesus's will for your life in your everyday?
Right.
And I think that's something that everyone can benefit
for sure.
from.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And I love the stories that so each chapter starts with a story, not trying to like give too much, but each chapter starts with a story of yours.
Yes.
And it is beautifully written. And then you open it up, and like you said, it's kind of like a workbook. It's not even like a devotional necessarily. It's you can use it as a devotional.
For sure.
But like, it's just, okay, this is the topic.
Yeah.
Let's work through it.
Yeah.
Let's like dive into it. Let's learn about it, not through your story,
right,
but for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that it is a wonderful tool for a lot of people to be able to use.
Yeah, I knew I've done plenty of devotionals, and at some point in them, I just want to get it done, and I wanted this, like, I don't map it out, day 1, 2, or 3. And I even had a friend tell me one time, she was like, I went to go start your devotional, and then you told me in it, I say something like, this is not checking a box. So if you're going to start doing that, then put it down and come back to it in a month. She's like, so I put it down and I haven't started it yet. I was like, that's great. Like, your story is too important to like bypass it and just fill in real quick answers, And it is a lot. I love journaling. That is how I communicate with God the most, is when I'm journaling. And I know not everyone's an avid journaler, and it does ask a lot of questions. But in my mind, I thought, but if they're questions diving into like me, someone, then maybe that's easier than just like, what did you think of John 1:1? Something like that.
Like more theological questions.
Right.
It's
yes.
Like, how do you, like, one of the questions that I kind of remember is, when was a time where you felt lonely?
Yes.
And that's not exactly how you worded it, but
Probably
like
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you name a time where you felt lonely?
Yeah.
And I like kind of knew the exact moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is when I
Yes.
felt like.
And that's the hope, is that that's what God would do, is like, when it question what comes to mind first. That's usually a lot of times what God's speaking to you. Like, okay, this is, a time we need to address.
And I didn't feel the pressure to like answer it right. Or like use these big theological words in my, and also like nobody's gonna see it.
Right, exactly.
Go and like share it.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Cool, and I'm excited to dive even more deeper.
I know.
So a lot of your content, the book and some of your like Instagram content, is kind of talking about, well, one, finding Jesus in your story, but like specifically finding Jesus in like the mundane.
Yes.
Finding Jesus in doing the dishes, in taking care of your children, in just these day-to-day things where we think, oh, I'm just kind of, I have to do this. I have to get this done. Right. I really don't see why Jesus would be in this, in doing the dishes.
Yes.
So kind of talk to me about what that looks like for you, how you kind of realize like, oh, Jesus needs to be on the forefront of my mind, even when I'm like doing the dishes. Am I complaining about it, or am I like, thank you, Lord, that I have dishes?
Right. Yeah. This is definitely something that has been in the works, like that He has been working on me in for the last year, because I'm in this season, I published the book and I sent it to everybody I knew, and I have such a great, like our church and my group of friends, I have the most supportive people. I'm pretty sure everybody that I sent it bought the book. And so like, that was so cool seeing that number, but then after that subsided and like all the new of it, now it's like, okay, what's my day to day? And I'm like writing a blog. I'm making a video for social media. But nothing else is what it feels like. And in one of my counseling sessions, we just kind of talked a lot about that, is I have so much in here that I want to like get out, but it's almost like, well, it's not right now. It's not the time. And their doors aren't opening to get it all out. And so it feels like I'm not producing anything. I'm not doing anything. And through that, just my counselor has challenged me with like, what if you doing the dishes is like fighting back the gates of hell? Like, that's what fighting back the gates of hell looks like in your life right now. Because what does Satan want to do to those dishes? Well, like, I hate dishes. But I also hate dirty dishes. I want them clean. I want a clean house. And it's just like inner turmoil I have, and the house isn't picked up. And that's something that I've been doing, is like, oh no, like this is fighting back Satan too. And I feel like you mentioned it maybe in your podcast last week, but I think as Christians, it's so easy to get these like almost spiritual highs. We go to the conference or hear the sermon, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then when we're not having those like big glamorous moments, we lose the fire in the mundane. And I think so much of what I'm learning in my life right now is I have to find Jesus in the mundane, because most of the time life is mundane, And so if we're like waiting for these big moments to find Him, the chances are we're going to miss Him a lot. And also, when you read through the Bible, I mean, obviously He had all His miracles, but Jesus, His everyday life just also seemed mundane. You know what I mean? And so I think that's something I'm learning, and it's one of those things, like I'm learning it. I want to invite other people into learning that as well.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Thank you for sharing that. The image that kind of like came to me as you were talking was, yes, in the Bible, we do have all these miracles, but like it also describes the like their day-to-day life too, like what they're doing. And then Jesus, like the woman at the well was just going to get water. Right. Yes. And He finds her there. Yeah. And like that's when the big miracle happens. Right. We have to allow Him into our everyday, into our day to day for those big things to happen. Right. Even. Take time and rest. Right. In Him. Yeah. Not rest from Him. Right. But rest in Him. And that's kind of where those mundane times for sure kind of find us. Yeah, definitely. I hope that makes sense. Oh, it absolutely does. Yeah.
Well, it's so opposite of like our world today,
Yeah.
and obviously we've all heard the like church message or the podcast talking about rest and you need rest. And like we all know that.
Yeah.
This mundane, it almost is the thing we all want to run from.
Yes.
Because it's uncomfortable, it's scary. When you're in the quiet, like God's probably gonna bring things to your mind that, like through lily pads, it's like, okay, when you're sitting there diving into your story, what memory is going to come up, and you're going to want to close it and go do something else.
Yeah, because it's uncomfortable.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the mundane is like most of the time where he's like pulling us to so that everything else can quiet and he can actually, be heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, it totally makes sense what you're saying.
Good. But that reminds me, one of your questions too was what is your like default setting when when you're feeling overwhelmed? I don't remember the exact question, but like, and you listed some examples, like, is anxiety your default setting? Is it busyness?
Mm-hmm.
Is it to kind of shut down?
Yeah.
And mine definitely is busyness.
Yeah.
My default setting, if I am feeling like anxious or feeling uncomfortable about something, like, or, if I don't want to hear what the Lord has to say.
Yeah.
My default setting is busyness.
Find something to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Find something to do, get my mind off of whatever.
Right.
When really we need to allow him to like let him come to us in that.
Right. Yeah. And I think sometimes too, for me, I sometimes don't want to wait on God. Like if I'm sitting down to do the right thing and read the Bible, journal, do a devotional. And I'm like, okay, been sitting here for a minute, haven't heard what I want to hear from you. I'm going to get up and go, fill that time with something else then.
Yeah.
And so I feel like sometimes, even when we try to do, like, step into the mundane, when it's not in our time, it's like, oh, I'm out. That's what I do. And then I go to the dishes, and have that war.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
No, that makes total sense. I kind of want to shift gears for a minute. You had mentioned, and you kind of mentioned it in the book, we've talked about it a little bit, that your husband kind of has walked through these seasons of depression.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about what that looks like for you, for him, for your family?
Yeah.
And kind of how we find Jesus in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. This is, I feel like, my go-to. I mean, it's just, this is the biggest moment of my life where I have felt so lost and lonely, but also where Jesus has like stepped in, Yeah. But, so his family dynamic, when I even met him, was interesting. His mom had a traumatic brain injury, 10 years prior. And so she was, kind of like a vegetable, couldn't talk, couldn't walk, couldn't really feed herself when I met her. And his dad was her full-time caretaker. And year after we got married, we had just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. My husband walked into his parents' house because he hadn't heard from his dad in a couple days, and then found his dad had passed away in bed, like days before.
Oh my goodness.
And his mom, was laying in bed next to him, had been, they thought, for probably 5 days, and like hanging on by a thread. And his sister lived in Colorado, and so it was, life became chaos, And I remember, it's just, I can sit here and look back now. I talked about our pastors literally was like, Adam's dad died. We're here now. And they're like, okay, where's his mom? And in 2 seconds, they're like at the hospital with his mom, sitting with them while we're figuring out, our friends are coming over to help, I can look back and just see, even in that one instant, like how God showed up in so many ways. But life became, his sister ended up moving home to caretake for his mom, and then we part-time helped like on weekends and stuff, and which was not what I had signed up for.
Sure.
And I also, shortly after we found out we were pregnant. And so I was like pregnant, and my husband had to work. I wasn't working at the time, and I had like this little, at home side business. And so on our time to care for her, it was me, because my husband had to go to work. And I remember hating it and being so resentful. I don't know this woman. Like, I've never got to have a conversation with her, and I'm having to like help with all these things, and I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be a caretaker. And it was just like such a dark time. And I remember just hating life and like, this is not the life that I signed up for. And all the while, my husband is like, he's also trying to work, and then we're trying to figure out paperwork from his dad. And then probably, I think it was 2 years after that, his mom had been in the hospital a lot, just with her condition. And finally a doctor was like, how long are you going to keep this up? Like, her body tries to pass away. You guys, CPR, resuscitate, or whatever, comes to the hospital, is here for a month, recovers, goes home. We'll do the same thing in 6 months.
Yeah.
And my husband was like, well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And they, however it happens, it's taking her off the ventilator and allowing her body to pass away. Yeah. My husband had to be the one to make that decision. And so they took the ventilator out, and it was a couple days later, and she finally passed away. And that was like the moment, I think, all 10 years of pain and trauma and loss like fell on him. Yeah. And he felt it all that he had like shoved deep down finally was on the surface. And we had a newborn who was, a spitfire, and I'm pretty sure she quit napping at like 1 month old. Wow. She was such a hard baby. And I was like, this mom thing's not it either, like, what is happening? Yeah. And we, it was quite a few years, that we were just trying to figure it out on our own with like our pastors and our friends, and we'd have some good months, and then just other times when the depression was so crippling, he couldn't even get out of bed. Yeah. And with the depression, he would also have like the most intense migraines. And so life for him was just, barely bearable, And it was just, I remember, like I already said, when I was helping caretake for his mom, it's like, this is not what I signed up for. Yeah. And then with his depression, I was like, this is also not what I signed up for. And with my hard daughter, I was like, this is not what I signed up for. Yeah. And it just felt like, this is like God's playing a trick on me. And all the while I'm in ministry, I'm like, this isn't supposed to happen. I'm like helping build your church. It was a church plant. We had given, to us, it was a big amount, but a small amount to like help start the church. We didn't know what we were doing. And I was like, we have sacrificed so much for you, God. And then you're going to make all of this happen in life. And I just remember it being like such a lonely time, like for all of us, and, navigating what that looks like was, I don't know, even looking back, I'm like, how did we even make it? But the pivotal moment was we one day had a couple friends who knew us well, that came over and basically like told my husband, hey, we see you and we know like this is not where you should be. Yeah. Let's get help. And they paid for 12 weeks of counseling for him. Wow. And we had the money to do it, but they knew we wouldn't. Yeah. They knew he wouldn't pay for it. Yeah. And that's what, sometimes I'm like, I feel so bad you guys did that because we probably could have managed, and they're like, that wasn't the point.
It's not the point. Yeah. If you can, they felt led to do it, and that was what the Lord did.
Right. Exactly. And they obeyed. And I just remember sitting on our porch on a Saturday morning. I can't even picture where my kids were. I think they were inside being good. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense, like they weren't coming out. And that is like the start of when everything started to change. It didn't take, we talked about medication for a long time for him. And he's been in counseling now for 3 years, every other week. Yeah. We invest a lot in mental health. Yeah. But yeah, that was one of the loneliest times of my life. And then looking back now, I'm like, well, obviously God was so in it, because how did I make it out of that,
Yeah, exactly. So. Sometimes we don't see him moving in a situation until we're out of the situation. Mm-hmm. He's like, no.
Right.
Not only was I in it, I was like carrying you.
Literally.
I was like working.
Right. Yeah.
Like I wasn't just there.
Over all of it. Yes.
Over all of it. And that's why you're where you are.
Right.
And we don't see it sometimes until after. Because we're so caught up.
Yeah. Well, and I think God knows too a lot of times, that we can't see all like the whole picture, you were not ready to know everything to follow, because it wasn't, the lowest season, or it probably was the lowest season, but it wasn't our last low season, right. We've had plenty of those. But you can see like that prepared me for every moment after,
you know. Yeah, it's he takes those hard situations, the difficult lily pads, and prepares you because he knows which lily pad you're going to next. Yeah. Talk to me about you being the spouse of someone that was walking through that. And you just touched on like how difficult it is. But how can we help them find Jesus in their situation when they're walking through it? When maybe we can kind of see, the Lord moving. Right. Sometimes we can see the Lord moving in someone else's situation, but they can't. Right. So did you have those moments where you like watched your husband walk through something and like you could see that God was moving, but maybe he couldn't? How do we help loved ones that are walking through that?
Yeah. That's one thing I've thought a lot about because, you know, when I look back on that time, I know I was not the best supportive spouse, you know, and because in my own way, like I was grieving, I was like struggling with my own stuff, but I felt like there was no space for it. So I just shoved it all down. And when I did that, I was so resentful just to God, life, and my husband. But I got to a point, I remember one time when I decided that I'm a super competitive person. Like I love sports, and I started viewing just that the battle we were in as like, okay, Satan, is he winning or losing? Is God winning or losing? And when I would have these thoughts when my husband would be sleeping in, you know, because getting out of bed was like so hard for him to do, especially if he had a migraine, you know. And I'd be so resentful because I'm up at like 6 a.m. Like I'm just an early bird. Yeah. Like, we don't sleep in. We get up with the sun, you know. And I remember thinking of times when I'd be like, you know what? No, like forget you, Satan. I'm not going to be mad at my husband. Yeah. And it was like when I could do that, I almost could like feel my like chest puff up. And, you know, I'm like, I'm going to win this. God and I are going to win this battle. Like he doesn't get to decide how I view my husband or how I'm going to treat my husband. And there was one time my husband will still talk about it. You know, we're kind of in the middle where it's like always up and down. And I worked at our church. And so Sundays we're up super early, you know, as a whole family. It was something we just did together. It wasn't something I did on my own necessarily. And one morning I went and woke my girls up and got them ready for church. And we closed Dad's door and we just went to church and left him to sleep in. And when we did that, he woke up and realized that we had let him sleep in. And he just told me he started crying because he never felt so seen by me to just, I'm going to take care of the girls. You come when you're ready. Like when you feel like it, come to church. And I think a lot of times we think we have to, especially me coming from ministry or just Jesus people, I think in general, you know, worry about this. I've got to say the right thing. I've got to spew Jesus in a way that feels new and hits home for them and changes their life, you know. And I think by being the light of Jesus, like me showing grace that morning, and like that's how people get to encounter him. It's not through anything we say. Yeah. Because for me, I've heard a lot of it, you know. Like when I was interviewing counselors, I had one. And she, everything she was telling me, I'm like, heard it, you know, heard this, all of this, you know. And I think a lot of us, we have so much information in our lives, you know, in our face at all times that, you know, we've all probably heard it. But I think when we can actually just be the light of Jesus without even saying his name, I think that's when people can feel the shift and they can feel something different. If I can just show someone the grace and the kindness and the love that Jesus does show, instead of having to say anything about him, I think that says so much more to people than what we say.
Yeah, letting Jesus shine through us. Right. That's like literally like why I've called this podcast Rise and Shine. Like letting people see Jesus through us instead of just like going up. Like there are times where we like go and tell people about Jesus. For sure. But like, you know, people have such a negative connotation with that because they feel like they're just being talked at. And I definitely do think people do it the wrong way. Definitely. And that's why people feel that way. But yeah, we're just meant to show the love of Jesus. Christians is little Christ. We're meant to be like him. Yeah. So just when our loved ones are walking through that, there are moments where we need to like encourage them with our words and tell them the truth about what the Bible says. But there are so many moments also where we just need to show them that we love them and show them that we see them and show them that
for sure,
that encourage them through what we do for them.
Right, exactly.
By showing them Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so right.
That's so good. So, my kind of last question is, what is something that you want people to know more about Jesus? Like, what is something that you think the world misconstrues about Jesus or doesn't know about Jesus?
I'm just going to go with the first thing that came to mind. I actually haven't thought about this other than this moment, so we'll see how this processes out loud. But I think, I'm going to say for me personally, but I think something that could hit for anybody is that Jesus is probably not asking of you all that you think he is. And I think that's what I'm learning in my own life right now is I wake up and I want to think that God has a checklist for me of things that I have to produce today to be worthy. If I create this blog and this social media and do this and this and this, and I'm finding all the turmoil that comes with putting so much pressure on myself in every scenario. And, we talked about busyness before. It's an epidemic in our world right now, or in our, over here, America, I don't know where you would say.
Almost globally.
Right. Yeah. Everyone. Like, it's something you just hear all the time is everyone is so busy. In ministry, we saw it. Like, people are so busy, they can't commit to church every week or, frequently or regularly. And I think, I really do believe that God is like, they're filling their lives with a lot of stuff that I have not asked them to. And it goes back to everything we've been talking about too, is like coming back to the mundane is when we learn to find him in the mundane and in the quiet and in the boring. I would hope that teaches our souls that we don't have to chase a million other places and things to fulfill us. So I think that's what it would be, is that Jesus is probably not asking us to do all that we're putting pressure on ourselves to do.
Yeah. No, that's so good. That's so good. It's become like you said, a checkbox.
Right.
And it's, sometimes we focus on the words.
Yeah.
And not on the faith.
Exactly.
And our faith produces the words.
Right. Yeah.
And all, yes, he's asking you to surrender all and everything, but that doesn't look like what we think it looks like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's probably very different.
It's very simple.
Yes.
My podcast is called Rise and Shine.
Yes.
So what does it mean for you to rise up and shine? What for Jesus? What does that look like for you?
So it makes me think of Isaiah, I think 30:21. It's, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's, whether you turn to the right or the left, you will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." And that has been just a verse I have loved, for as long as I can remember. And I got it also tattooed here. But it's like that, walk in it. That's what, when you say like rise and shine, that's what I think of, is I'm rising up and I'm walking in whatever it is. I'm not running from it. I'm not trying to numb out through the season. I'm not trying to hide, or I'm not trying to manufacture something for myself or what I think God might be saying, but I'm not actually listening long enough to hear. But it's like walking in whatever he has in front of us. And I think through that and choosing to like show up to it and walk in it, that's what shines like the light of Christ, right?
Yeah, that's
is
so
not running from it.
Yeah.
So,
that's so good. I love that. That's so good. Yeah. So I loved our conversation today. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Yes, it's been so good. I think people are going to be blessed by it. Yeah. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah. Okay, so I have a landing page that's just shelbygardner.com, Gardner. I just had a good friend yesterday. We've been friends for years, and they're some of our best friends. And she was like, "Did you know her husband, he had our last name in his phone as Gardner this whole time. Like, he's thought our last name was Gardner this whole time."
Gardening.
Exactly. Yes. Which I do love that also. But it's just Shelby Gardner, no gardener. .com. Lily Pads is on Amazon, but also ShelbyGardner.com has links to the blog, Amazon, I believe my Instagram, and surely something else. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to link all that down below too.
Great.
But
awesome.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining me.
You were so great to sit with. This was awesome.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. You're awesome. Well, guys, as always, we hope that this episode blesses you. We hope that you learn from it, that you feel like you have some tools to get closer to Jesus. If you feel like you are in that mundane, if you feel like you just can't find him, that the busyness is just taking over, we pray that you start finding him in every aspect of your life. I'd like to end the episode by praying.
Okay.
So, Lord, we just thank you for this time. We just thank you for, I thank you for Shelby, and I thank you for every single person who might be watching or listening to this episode right now. I pray that you just reveal yourself to them in this very moment. I pray that you reveal that you are with them in every season, on every lily pad of their life, that you have never left them, that you are guiding each step, even if it's one step at a time. I pray that you just start revealing yourself more and more to each person listening. And I pray that you bless them. I pray that you give them the strength to rise up and shine. In Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, now go out there and shine.